Hey guys, what you're looking at is a 2004 GMC Yukon Denali, and I'm going to show you how to change the brake pads and the rotors in this video. So the 2004 GMC Yukon Denali, do the rear brake pads today and the rotors. The first step, which is basically going to be the easiest step in this video, flathead screwdriver. Stick it in here and take the hubcap off so you can get to the lug bolts. Now, since I don't have a power wrench, I'm going to use a 4-way, and for these lug bolts it's going to be a 7/8 socket head to take off the lug bolts. So you want to break those free. Now that you got your lug bolts broken free, we're going to take the jacks and jack it up and then take off the wheel. Make sure you put in some jack stands just for safety reasons, and one under the main axle. You can take the jack out, that way all the pressure isn't on the jack itself. Alright, so I broke the lug nuts free before, jacked the tire up. Now we'll just take those off. Pretty easy to take off with the 4-way. If you have air, it's a lot faster since you have 6 bolts here, but all I've got is a 4-way. That's what I'm going to have to use. Take the tire off. Just put it under the truck. First thing you notice is a little bit of rust here, but we're going to get rid of these rotors anyway because I replaced the other side, and you want to replace them both at the same time. You might be able to see the brake pads. They're about 1/8. And they need to be changed. So what we're going to do is take this bolt off right here, take the bottom one off right here, which will slide this whole caliper off, and then we'll take the caliper bracket off. That's the top bolt, and then the bottom bolt you can see down low. Now this is a 2004 GMC Yukon Denali. All this is going to be the same for 2001s to 2006. For GMC Yukons, Chevy Suburbans and Tahoes, GMC Sierras, Chevy Silverados are all going to be pretty much the same. First thing is, take your ratchet, take off the caliper bolts, remove that. The GMC are small, short bolts. Take the caliper off. Okay, from this position you can see there's 2 pistons here, and the first thing you want to do is take a C-clamp, clamp those down so that when you put the new brake pads on, that you're going to be able to fit this whole assembly, this whole caliper back on. So you want to squeeze these down and get them down as low as you can. So I've got a vice grip C-clamp. You can use a regular woodworking C-clamp if you want, or another clamp where you can get a lot of pressure. What you're going to do is just squeeze right here and press that piston down. See how it keeps going down? And this is a double, so in a second I'll show you a little trick to get them both down, because you see how you move down one, the other one comes up. So the little trick is to take one of these pads off, set that in here, take your C-clamp, and now we can press them both down at the same time. See how strong of a grip you got. Squeeze those pistons down, you can see they start lowering, and they both go down at the same time. Otherwise you'll be here all day long if you start trying to squeeze one at a time. So you want to take them both down at the same time. Squeeze that piston down, adjust your C-clamp, squeeze them down. See how they keep going down? That gives us a wider area here for when we put the caliper back on. We can put the brake pads on a lot easier. Now remember, your caliper is held by a brake line, so you don't just want to let it go and dangle, otherwise you might rip that brake line off. So if you can find a spot back here to set it, where it's not going to fall and it's out of the way, you won't have to worry about taking the brake line off. As you can see, the thickness of the new pads, these are the new ones. These are a ceramic. These are by Wagner, so they're ceramic, so they're a lot quieter, less brake dust. And these are the possibly could be the factory ones. There wasn't much brake dust, but if you get any metallic pads, they're going to have a lot more brake dust. The toughest job of the whole brake job is taking this caliper bracket off, and on the back side are two big bolts, and this uses an 18mm wrench. You've really got to muscle it to get those off. Sometimes you're going to have to use some pounding of a hammer to get those bolts off. Alright, so I got those bolts loosened. The bottom one was really on there. The top one took one hit and then it ended up coming off pretty easy. So you're going to unscrew these bolts. Here's how big the bolts are. Had probably a little bit of thread lock on there. Alright. And there's your caliper bracket that the caliper attaches to. From here, the rotor's not going to come off because you got these little lock washers on here. What you need to do is take a pliers, or you can use a needle nose pliers, and you just grab one of these little tabs and bend it up. There's about 6 tabs on here, but once you get them all pulled up, then you should be able to pull it off. Slides off just like that. From here, you'll notice they've got the brakes for your parking brakes or your e-brakes, and these don't hardly ever need to be replaced. Here's your new rotors, nice and shiny, but when they come in the package, they come with a little bit of oil and grease film on them, and you don't want to have that on your brakes while you're driving down the road. So we're going to give them a little bath with some brake cleaner and clean all that stuff off. Got your new rotor. Going to just slide it right back on. Take your clips, put them back on. A flathead screwdriver. Push your rotor on. Push those little lock flaps down. Lock on that stud bolt. Alright, from here we got our caliper bracket. And if you still have your little assembly kit, the little kind of shims that hold the brake pads on, you can take those off. Before we put these big bolts on, we're going to use an anti-seize thread lubricant. You can get it at any kind of auto store. Just put it on the threads, and it will spread itself out as it goes in. Okay, so take your caliper bracket, stick it back on there. There's only really one way for it to go on. From there, tighten them up. When you put those back bolts on, just make sure, you don't want to strip them, but you want to make sure that they're good and nice and tight. Okay, got your new brake pads. Before we stick these in there, we want to put those shims, those little brackets in here. One's for the caliper, and then 2 of these go in the bracket for the caliper. That bottom one just fits around. Stick it in here till it clicks. One goes on the inside, then one goes on the outside. Alright, here's your caliper. Before you put it on, you've got this little tiny clip in here that we want to replace that the brake pad kit comes with. If you look here on the top of the caliper, there's a little flap right there that you gotta pull off. Just take your flathead screwdriver, stick it in there, push it down, and pull it out. Take the new one. Make sure you come to the other side and push it up, click, and it's good. Okay, there's a new one that's in there. Looks like with the new one. So you take your caliper, just slides right on. Take your bolts that have the anti-seize lubricant on. Put it in the top. Do the bottom one. Okay, from here, you're going to take your wrench. You got your top caliper bolt, your bottom caliper bolt. And we'll tighten those up. Alright, almost done. One thing you want to do right before, get a little bit more of this brake dust off, give it a little bath with your brake parts cleaner. Alright, for some people this will give you a good chance to clean your tire up and your rim up, both the front and the back, getting the excess brake dust and stuff off your tire and clean out the inside of your rim. But you don't have to do this step, you can skip that if you want. Put it back up on top of your stud bolts, kind of hold it with your foot there, and grab your lug nuts. Start threading them on. Take your 4-away with a 7/8 socket size and spin them back on. After you got them pretty tight, you want to kind of snug them up a little bit, put the jacks down, and then snug them up even more. Last step of the job, just like the first step was the easiest, the last step is the easiest as well. Put the GMC cap back on. And that's it, you're done. Thanks for watching.